I worked in Indianapolis as a reporter on the radio for about a year. And then, because of a long story, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I needed to find a job in Washington, D.C. So I printed up a resume and walked from door to door in the US Senate and in the House of Representatives, from door to door in congressmen and senators' offices, just handing out my resume and saying, does anybody need a press secretary? Does anybody need an assistant? Does anybody need an aide? And just by chance, I went to the office of Congressman Richard White from El Paso. And the person who was there at the desk said, oh my golly, we need a press secretary. Can you be a press secretary? And I said, yes, I can. So I think I was 23 or 22. I said, yes, I can be a press secretary. So for a while, I was the press secretary for a congressperson from Texas. I mean, here I am from Indiana. What do I know? 22 years old. I'm just making this up. And ask me more about that in a minute. And then, because of the way the grapevine works on Capitol Hill, I worked on Capitol Hill for Congressman White for a little while, and I heard that there was a job opening in the Administrative Practice and Procedure Subcommittee of the Senate Judiciary Committee. So I thought, okay, that sounds good to me, whatever that meant. So I applied for that job in the Administrative Practice and Procedure Subcommittee of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which turned out to be chaired by Ted Kennedy, Senator Ted Kennedy from Massachusetts. Well, I had no connection with that at all, but I got the job and worked in the subcommittee as a legislative assistant for maybe a year and a half. And on our staff, well, first of all, my intern was Caroline Kennedy. She was 16, and it was really, she was fun and great, and it was hilarious. Also on the staff was Stephen Breyer, who turned out to be a justice of the Supreme Court. We called him cute little Stephen Breyer at the time because he was quite adorable and really smart, brilliantly smart. So that was a wonderful experience. So, and forgive me because this is going to sound so name droppy, and I really hate this, but this is the story. When you worked for Senator Kennedy, you were always invited to Hickory Hill for weekends, for parties. And at one of these parties, I met Richard Goodwin, who we got to chatting, and he said that Jan Wenner of Rolling Stone had asked him to be the editor of this new magazine, sort of an insert in Rolling Stone magazine called Politics. And at the end of the afternoon, he said, you want to come be the assistant editor of this Politics magazine for Rolling Stone? I'm like, sure, I can be the assistant editor of a magazine. And again, no idea. So I went to work for Rolling Stone magazine for a year. I wrote a column called Capital Chatter, wrote and edited a column called Capital Chatter. There was a lot of freelance submissions of people who were covering Washington, D.C., and I covered the CIA hearings and, Susan Ford's prom and all those kinds of things into this Capital Chatter column that was in every issue. And it was great. It was absolutely great. Ann Wexler was there on staff in the Politics magazine. It was a wonderful little microcosm of music and politics in Rolling Stone's Washington, D.C. bureau. But then Rolling Stone decided to, I promise you this has a point, Rolling Stone decided to close its Washington bureau, and I was out of a job. Again, this is sort of a process that I have. I was out of a job again, so I thought, what do I want to do? And I learned that the Washington Post had an opening to be a gossip columnist, the gossip columnist for the Washington Post. So I thought, yeah, I could do that. So somehow I finagled my way into an interview for this gossip columnist for the Washington Post. I wasn't sure whether I wanted this job, because I thought, I'm 26 years old, and if I become the gossip columnist for the Washington Post, I'm going to start caring about things that I'm not sure really matter. It would be glamorous, it would be fun, it would be fabulous, but inherently, and forgive me, inherently shallow. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to spend, it wouldn't be my life, but my brain cells and my power as a person and my whatever I bring to a job. I didn't know if I wanted to spend it on celebrity gossip. I just wasn't sure. So I went home to Indianapolis really to think about this. And I remember having lunch with Sally Quinn at the Madison Hotel. And saying, let me just think about this. Let me think about this. I need to think about this. And she said, if you go home to Indianapolis, we will never hear from you again. Beware. And I thought, okay, I hear you. I need to go think about this. So I went home to Indianapolis, and by chance, and you see this as a theme in my life, by chance, the ABC affiliate in Indianapolis, the television station, had an opening for a reporter, a television reporter. So I thought, okay, this sounds good to me. I'm going to try it. So I had an interview, never been on television before. The news director handed me a microphone, brought in a guy with a camera, handed me a microphone and said, okay, talk. So I thought, okay, I can talk. I said, about what? And he said, anything you want. So I thought, okay. So I talked about being in Washington and working at Rolling Stone and all my adventures at Rolling Stone. And it was a screen test, but I didn't even realize that that's what it was. I thought he was just asking me to see if I could talk, whatever you think when you're 26. So at the end of the interview, or at the end of this camera chat, he said, if you've written for Rolling Stone, I can probably make you into a television reporter. So I'm offering you the job. So I said, sure. And that was the day that I became a television reporter. Moved, didn't take the job at the Washington Post. What a good move that was. Moved back to Indianapolis, fell in love with television reporting. And that is how I got into television.